You are welcome into the second hour of Deise today. It's Maria in for Damien. He'll be back with you tomorrow and normal service shall resume. And I was talking to Geraldine there from the Safeguarding, Geraldine Sutton, who's the principal social worker of the Safeguarding team in the South East, about, just preparing for when you get older so that you have made a record of what you want to do and people know what that is. And it's very timely advice and we should all be doing it. Somebody texted in to say, Maria, your guest is making so much sense. Very, very practical advice. Believe me, I'm talking from experience. Hope people listen and take note. It does save a lot of trouble down the line. And this, somebody else texted in to say, and this is where the problem sort of, can happen. What if your mother has cognitive impairment but has freedom of choice? Unfortunately, going on to make all the wrong choices, your hands are tied very hard. That is from somebody who texted that in. What can you do then? And see, that is quite difficult, but maybe if these things, no good to you, the person who texted, but maybe if these things were spoken about beforehand, maybe if that enduring power of attorney was in place, it is a good thing, somebody that you trust, that they have that to be able to make decisions for you if you can't make decisions for yourself, or something that, like you put in place, if you know maybe further down the line you're not going to be able to make decisions like that for yourself. Just have that in place. It does, I can't tell you the amount of grief it saves people if that is in place. Now, this sounds like, on the face of it, I'm just here for today, I'm just talking. But on the face of it, this sounds like it's going to be a very nice redevelopment of where Ryan's pub used to be. It's going to be 45 apartments, commercial space, 25 two-bed apartments, 14 one-bed apartments, 6 studio apartments, and it's very rare that you get places that cater for people who don't need so much space. And then the local shop is going to be able to move into this unit, and it all sounds very fine and dandy. It's been granted conditional planning permission by Waterford City and County Council, but not everybody is that happy about it. So to try and find out why and get to the bottom of it, I'm joined by Glenn Lynch of Brill Family Resource Centre in Ballybeg, because Ballybeg is the location that I'm talking about. You're very welcome to the programme, Glenn.
Good morning.
What's your objection to this? Because on the face of it, I don't see a problem with it. Why would you have a problem with it?
I suppose, firstly, we welcome the space on the radio to be able to explain what our concerns are.
You're welcome.
I suppose the first thing is that we need to look at what we have in common. We have in common that we agree that we're very cognizant of the housing crisis and the shortage of housing, and we welcome housing in the area. Second point is that, as a community group, Ryan's pub has been vacant and derelict and an eyesore for the last 13 years. So absolutely everyone within the community very much welcomes the development of that. It's great that someone is looking at investing in the area, and it's great that the community is on the up. So all of those are very positives, and we're certainly not going to negate any of those points. The concerns we have would be a number of points. I suppose, firstly, it's in relation to the size of it. If you look at community, Ballybeg is a very established community. It's all predominantly 2-storey family houses. And in the very middle of the community, the proposal is to put in a 4-storey building. We find it kind of incongruous and not fitting with the local environment. For us, it's an economic measure where you stack them high and pack them in. You get as many units into it as possible and let people there. For us, quality living, how it fits into the community, and the whole character of the community are greater points that need to be considered. We certainly, in our objection, we're very, very clear. In our appeal, we're very clear that, in principle, we're not objecting to development. We're objecting to the fact that this new kind of housing crisis has brought along a fast-tracking planning where things go at the speed of light. I'm a little disappointed that community consultations haven't happened either with the developer, which is a private developer, or with the council. The council, I suppose, in conversation with us, then we asked them to take part in one of our recent community conversations to give insight and give a neutral account on what happened. And the feedback we got was that it obviously it wasn't a community, it wasn't a council building. The council had nothing to do with it, and the council at the moment then, their opinion was that they have no intention of taking on board, that there's no agreement in place with the developer to take it on board. And that's only a slight point, but what we have is that we're caught in a situation where on one side of the council, then there's an absolute lack of information. They're unable to give us any information from the developer who we met along with the shopkeeper. We agreed we had a lot in common, but there was an awful lot of information points that were missing. And our concern is that this development is going to go forward in what we consider to be a vacuum of information. It's been fast-tracked through. The majority of residents that we've spoken to knew nothing at all about it. The first thing they heard about it was when either we put it up on social media or we put a leaflet through the door. And our contention is that there's a strong cohort of residents in Ballybeg who are opposed to development as it currently is. They're not opposed to development, they're opposed to development as it currently is.
OK, I just want to bring Fianna Fáil Councillor Jason Murphy in on this as well, because you're certainly more familiar with it than I would be.
Yeah.
The things that Glenn has said there, does he have valid points?
Of course he does. I know Glenn quite well, and I know the work that Glenn does in the community. So Glenn's bona fides is beyond question in this. And I think both of us, and as he said when he spoke himself, we have a lot of common ground here. We all want what's good for Ballybeg. And Glenn gave the history of the site, and everyone knows it. I think it was burnt down back in 2011, Glenn, if I'm correct. So it's almost a decade now we're looking at a derelict site. This was brought up again and again at council level by myself and other councillors, in fairness, what was going to happen with this site. Nothing was the answer. The council weren't interested in it. They weren't interested in CP on it. They said it was of no commercial value. When I got elected back in 2014, I had a huge amount of representations to get something done with this site. A developer then came on board and is determined to do something with it. Glenn is right. Planning is now has been granted for a 45 unit development over 2 to 4 floors, including retail as well. Where we probably differ is, I think, the development as it probably stands and has been granted, and Glenn is going to appeal that on Board Pleanála, which he's entitled to do and which the community are entitled to do. I think it is sustainable for the area. We're talking about over 4 floors. It's not high rise. The first floor will be retail, and the subsequent floors then will be residential. In relation to the council's role in this, at the moment it's a private development. But let's be honest, it could very well turn into what's termed a turnkey development. So what would happen then is, if it fits the council's criteria, which I believe it does, that the council then would take it on board and it would become a social housing or a social complex. All the apartments are disability friendly, and that's where the pressure point is within the council. So I think it is a good fit for the area. I think, in fairness to Ballybeg, and I give Glenn a huge amount of credit for this, it's a very well-served community. You have the resource centre, which Glenn is involved in. You have the soccer club, the GA club, the church, the school. You have a number of shops there, the men's shed. So it is a very well-served community, and I think it can sustain this development. What is proposed?
So it's 4 floors. It's not 15 or anything.
It's 4 floors.
I suppose it's clarity in it. The kind of the outlets for the shops will take up maybe one side of the apartments. The front side of the building, which is 90% of the front building, will be residential. So you're not talking about a whole floor commercial. It wouldn't be that. In terms of the apartments being able for people with medical conditions, etc., then absolutely Jason would be very well aware that kind of standard policy for Waterford City Council would be, if there are bottom floor apartments available, then those bottom floor apartments are available to those who have maybe medical issues, whatever. The other apartments, less so. And that point is endorsed really by, if you look at the planning, if that was the council's intention to have all of those there, which is quite an emotive argument that I disagree with, then the disabled spaces would have been increased. The whole complex has got 3 disabled spaces and 50 bike racks, or 50 places for bikes. So the intention of it isn't just to serve that. They're very, very welcome, of course. If the intention was for that, then I would have thought good planning and good council work, etc., would have been to engage the services in the area towards, if we're looking at developing a service that will have people who will be maybe older or those with mobility issues, then how can you integrate into the services? This conversation hasn't happened, and it's one of the things that the community, like us and communities around the country, and it's not just aimed at Waterford City Council, would be that the communities tend to be the last to find out about things, the last to whatever, and the communities are left to repair any potential damage that has been done in terms of poorly thought infrastructure or poorly thought plans that haven't been thought in terms of the social costing of it. We looked at the economy of it. Yeah. The economy makes sense.
What about that point, Jason, that we have, and we do this an awful lot in this country, that somebody makes decisions that they decide is going to be great for an area without ever asking the people who live there?
Well, I suppose in fairness to the developer, and I'm not speaking on behalf of the developer, but I do know the developer, he has flagged what he intends for the area in a very open and transparent way, probably more so than he had to do. You know, I mean, he went through the planning process like he should have. The News and Star reported on this extensively, what he exactly had planned, and indeed your own radio station reported on it as well. But in relation to, I suppose, parking spaces, look, I'm very familiar, 90% of my reps are to do with housing, and I'm very familiar where the pressure points are. And at the moment, in relation to people with disability, we I suppose, categorise people in 1, 2 and 3 for the level of disability they have. And I totally accept Glenn's point in relation to ground floor apartments and whatever, but the apartment complex that is proposed will have elevators. All the apartments have got level access showers and so on and so forth. But I don't want to get bogged down on what the apartments actually are, because they're providing living spaces. And I'm not saying every one of them is going to be for people with disabilities. That wouldn't be true, and I'd be disingenuous if I was saying that. But what has been proposed is a village-type complex. I suppose for people listening, we're looking at something that in the developer's mind is what you have out in Arkeen, that kind of retail complex, a kind of a heart of the village. And what he wants to see going forward is things like a doctor's surgery out there, a medical centre maybe even reinvigorating the pub that used to be out there. Ballybeg is a fantastic community. It probably is missing a heartbeat, if you know what I mean. You have the church or you have the school. The Spar shop is presently out there. The chap who runs the Spar shop runs a fantastic shop. But I think he'd even agree. From the outside, that shop looks like something out of the West Bank. And I've not been, patronising to him. He knows that. I think it needs this development. I think it's a very positive thing for Ballybeg going forward. I mean, if the people in the Dummer Road have this, why can't the people of Ballybeg have it as well? I don't think it's a negative.
Glenn, what would make it acceptable to you and the people who feel the same issue?
I can, I suppose, firstly to go back to the comparison in terms of Arkeen and apartments and stuff, then I don't see any connection. I also kind of, with respect to Jason then and the building, then I'm quite amused that it's described as a village, which gives it a very quaint fits in beautifully with the community and everything's fine. It doesn't. It's almost going to be flush with the road. It's going to be 4 stories. I've made those points already. In terms of, I suppose, in terms of future development, another point then would be the council's plan for 2020 to 24, 25, which is due out. It hasn't been, as far as I'm aware, it hasn't been given yet. It's very, very difficult to put the community and organisations like ourselves in a position where we're trying to preempt what the development will be in this area and the general area. People who know it will be aware that there's a huge building programme going on adjacent to Ballybeg in the Kilbarry Village area. Those two communities are going to merge very quickly. We're being asked to make an opinion on a large apartment complex going into the middle of our community without having the full knowledge of all the building that is going to go around in the whole area.
Would you accept, Glenn, that today it's a huge building that you just, because it's new, but in a couple of years' time people won't even see it because buildings just kind of merge in with their environment after a while? Could you get used to looking at them?
I think in terms of, well, I suppose there's a number of points. There's the first point in relation to the planning that we're at in terms of Bro Planola. Then the only acceptable appeals then will be on the structure of the building. If and when or whatever way the structure goes ahead, then obviously we have a whole other realm of concerns in terms of the management of it, who's going to look after it, the maintenance of it. Our opinion would be, having looked at similar developments where private developers are involved or anyone's involved, then the upkeep of the apartments then would be an issue for us. That's something we can look at down the line, but it's part of our concern in terms of it's not just going to be a nice area. Currently we have a horrible pub. We're concerned that we're going to replace, one, temporary eyesore with a very, very permanent eyesore that will be on the community landscape for the next 50 years.
But at least the permanent eyesore, if you want to call it that, will be given, people can sleep in it, they can live in it, they can work in it. It'll have more function than an eyesore that's just literally just that.
Of course, and it'd be really silly to disagree with that, but there's a higher point to it. The higher point is that I feel that there's still an agenda there that can be met, where the community's needs and wants can be brought into this plan. We haven't opposed the houses. We haven't opposed anything, so we're very, very clear. We're not blocking anything. What we're a community group. Like we have our usual business is not having appeals and not going to a blow Panola. We have a huge service and we're exceptionally busy. We've taken time out because we feel that this completely warrants it. Our issue would be that if and when there are any social costs to the ill-thought developments brought into the community, it's community services like ourselves and it's the community people in Ballybeg who will have to live with that. The developer will go, and in terms of the council, what they'll do in terms of mediating any difficulties, then we don't know. If there was a wider conversation where all stakeholders were open and honest in terms of what they're looking to do, and they say, listen, yeah, we're interested. If the council are interested in taking a 35-year lease, then according to the building developer, that's fine. Why can't the council sit down with the community and say, listen, the interest is this, can we not abate your concerns? If there was a point where any community development projects speak all over the country, and there's been a huge history of apartments and buildings and infill buildings going in inappropriately, and the vast majority of points will be that then it creates difficulties. If the developer, if City Council could sit down with us and say, listen, that we've looked at all of these, that we're very cognizant of all the issues that have come up and stuff, and our learning points from all these developments have informed this, so we have allowed it, and because of that then we're doing 1, 2, 3, 4 to abate it.
Jason, is that possible? Like we can have some sort of compromise here?
One point I don't agree with, and I can't let it slide. I don't think it's fair to describe the development as an eyesore or a potential eyesore going forward, or a permanent eyesore. I think people can see but the plans are out there, and let people look at that and make their own judgment on it. I'm not going to say it's an eyesore. I don't think Glenn should be saying it's an eyesore either, or even yourself to say it's an eyesore. Let people look at it and decide that.
That's a moot point, because one person's eyesore is another person's
I understand that, exactly. So I
don't
want to let it slide and say it's an eyesore, because a lot of people might look at it and say it's a great development for Ballybeg. I believe it is, and I believe it's a game changer for Ballybeg. I think this will rise Ballybeg. It'll move it forward and it'll give it a beating heart. I'm totally behind it, and I think it's a very positive development for Ballybeg.
You can take Glenn's,
of course I can.
Glenn's
of course I can.
opinions on board, and you can all work together and try to sort it out.
And I want to work with Glenn on this. Of course I do.
Okay. Do you want to make it very brief, because I am
very quick
short
point,
on time here?
I suppose one of our other concerns, then again, would be because of the lack of communication from all parties. Then our concern is that this is potential to set a precedent in the community where the apartments are going, the shop. People know geographically know the shop area, that building will become dormant. Jason, in his own words, has said that it's not suitable for anything. We're looking at medical centres going in. If the council could have sat down and said, listen, here are the drawings for the area, here is contextually how this is going to sit in, then that positive communication could have come forward. The faith in terms of the community, the council engage in the community to inform us isn't there at the moment because it is vacuum. So I think
it's not too late.
Information points. Well, we're at Bro Panola, so unfortunately it's either approved and being built, whatever, unless let's see how it rolls out.
Well, maybe some sort of compromise can happen, and because I think everybody would agree that Ballybeg does need redevelopment, does need something in it, but maybe not this. Your point is maybe not this particular thing.
Agreed.
But I hope you get some sort of compromise between yourselves. It's Glenn Lynch of the Brill Family Resource Centre in Ballybeg, and you've also been hearing from Fianna Fáil councillor Jason Murphy there. I'll be back with more for you after these. You are welcome back to the programme. This text is from Bobby, who says, Marie, I think the scale of the height of this development on the site of Ryan's Pub is the height of St Saviour's Church, with overlooking right in the heart of Ballybeg. I personally think it's not right for our area. This type of development worked up in John's College, not Ballybeg. We'll end up having a little Ballymun here. I totally agree with Glenn. That is from Bobby. Somebody else says, Maria, it's okay for the people out in the Dunmore Road to object about building apartments in their area. So why should the people of Ballybeg not be able to do so? Nobody said that they weren't able to do so. Just trying to find out why they thought that they needed to. Redevelopment in Ballybeg, I think if the right people are living there and managed well, this would be a really nice complex, says the texter. And the biggest demand for housing is for 1 and 2 bedroom apartments. We need all the homes we can get, all the homeless people in Ireland, and we're damaging children living in hotels. People need homes today, says another texter. And I'll bring as many of those to you as I can before the end of the programme. But I'm joined in studio now by Elaine Fenley of Crystal Valley Tech and Janice Taylor of Strategic HR. Now, if you remember, I think it was this day last week, I was filling in for Damien again. We had an item about how employers treat people who apply for jobs, and I went off on one on how they were just rude, and it didn't take 2 minutes to just send an email to somebody and say thank you for your interest in working for us, and then everybody was happy. They knew that they weren't successful, or even say, look up on our website if you haven't heard from us by the 25th, then you haven't got it, and off you go with yourself. And that it was awful to leave people just waiting there when they'd gone to the trouble of expressing an interest in working for you. Well, you an email from Elaine Fenley, and I got right telling off. Not really, but you did make the point, which is a fair point, to be serious, that there's another side to the story in terms of how employers have to deal with job applicants. So explain to them
I did, Maria.
what I meant.
I listened to your article and it reminded me of... I have got rejections from jobs in the past, and I've applied for jobs and heard nothing, and it's been really upsetting. So I always swore if I was in a position where I had the power and got job applications in, I would respond to everybody. So I was general manager of a multinational for 3 years in Waterford, and nothing prepared me for the onslaught of when you advertise a job. You get WhatsApps, tweets, texts, you get CVs delivered in person, delivered to your family. The biggest culprits are recruiters from all over the country and abroad who see that you're hiring and want to get a little piece of your business. So they have no boundaries. They will find your personal number. You are just inundated. And then you've got candidates who will put in 6 and 7 copies of a CV and then text you, have you, letter U, got my CV yet? So it was just a different world. And I mean, it's brilliant if you have your own HR department and your own HR platform to manage all of this. But in my case, and in a lot of small and medium-sized businesses, it is just not practical to get back to everybody. And I just
I wasn't expecting, to show up at their house with a bunch of flowers and chocolates and go, sorry, you didn't get the job. But I take your point that, it is difficult. And I suppose in terms of, nobody should be doing that. And then in a way, I still feel sorry for the employee because they want to get a job. They're trying to show initiative.
Absolutely.
They're trying to show that they're interested, and still they're getting into trouble with you, Elaine.
And it just goes to show, the world has changed so much, and the world of work is just changing at a dynamic, scary rate. And for parents out there who've got kids in secondary school, and if they were to listen to your show, they might think, OK, if a company doesn't get back to my son or my daughter, they're rude. I don't want to be working for them. But I think I was just trying to let you guys know that it is such a complex area. You've got US multinationals that are reporting from Ireland to the US head office. So sometimes your hands are tied. Sometimes you're competing on a very political level with the multinational who may want to keep some of their jobs abroad. So it's just such a grey area that it's just not black and white that you'll get an instant response.
Janice?
Yeah, look, also... Strategic HR, we do both. We service the employer side and the employee side. So we get the best of both worlds, and we get the comments from both sides as well. And just in terms of the candidates who are desperately trying to find work, there's so many ways to make sure that you are noticed. And that is really just to make sure that your CV is well written, that the topic is matching the job criteria that they're applying for, to make sure that all the
people have a tendency, I think, to send out the same CV, regardless of what they're applying for.
This is it, and one needs to make sure that you pitch your CV to the platform that you're wanting to work in. So often there are unnecessary additions to the CV that almost distract the person who's looking through the CV. You've got 6 minutes or 6 seconds really to draw the attention of the individual that's looking at the CV. So it's really about putting all the necessary skills at the top of the CV. Don't bother with a photo. It's all really about the skills. The photo, you'll get your interview if you're successful, and then the person gets to meet you and see you in person. So, keep it very simple. Focus on the skills. Focus on, all the achievements that you've made, your promotions. All those details make you stand out to other individuals that might just. What
about telling lies, embellishing?
No. You're quickly going to be found out. And there's a wonderful thing called a performance evaluation process that the individual will go through, or they should go through if the company is on the ball. And then all those details will be seen that are lies, and you might not get through your probation period. So best to be honest, and be honest with your failings. It's wonderful to see a CV where somebody says, I made a mistake in this area, but this is how I dealt with it. And this is what I learned out of who I am and what I have to offer. And so going forward, I'd like to do it differently, and this is how I do it. Those kind of things make me stop and look and think, wow, okay, this person has the confidence to be able to acknowledge their strengths as well as their weaknesses. And that is something that's real that I'd like to see more of.
I suppose there was 2 parts to both this interview and the previous one. And one is that you might be advertising, or a company might be advertising rarely. Some people are applying for jobs on the regular, and it must be very disheartening if they don't at least know that they didn't get it. That was part of my rant.
Oh, and it is it's
and
soul
also
destroying.
I think somebody sent in a text about a 16-year-old went into shops in town and dropped in a CV and said any work, and heard nothing from any of them.
Yeah.
But there's a 16-year-old showing some initiative, and nobody had the manners to say, thanks for your interest. If anything comes up, we will get in touch, or fair play to you for taking some
Totally
initiative.
agree with you.
Nothing.
There's lazy employers out there, and shame on them. If somebody walks in and does that, that's an easy one to respond to. I think where we were coming from is the area in total is very complex, and the same rules don't apply when you've got head office and different branches. But we've got a jobs fair coming up in the Tower Hotel that WLR will be doing a campaign with us on. It's on the 15th of March. We've got 700 jobs, 45 companies exhibiting. And what we're saying to the people who come looking for jobs is come in, meet the employers, but don't be put off if you don't get an instant yes or a no from them. We're just trying to explain some of the reasons why it might be a little bit longer than you would wish for to get a response.
Okay, am I forgiven?
You're totally forgiven,
Absolutely. If there's one more thing that I can say is, if you aren't getting a job immediately, get out there and go and volunteer. How many times somebody has gone into a business and said, I'm willing to work for nothing. I just want to be able to gain skills. And if the employer sees that 10 to 1 you're going to get a job anyway, or you have something else that you can put on your CV, and those people searching through those CVs will see it and you'll stand out.
Okay, Elaine Fennelly, Janice Taylor, thank you very much for coming in and putting me straight. I'll be back with more for you after these. You are welcome back to the programme now. Today's category in the upcoming Waterford Business Awards is Retail Excellence. Nominated in this category is the Fresh Food Court in Dungarvan, Spirit Beauty Spa and the Ardkeen Quality Food Store. Karen Tompkins spoke with all 3 to find out who they are and how they've made the prestigious shortlist. The Gala Awards night is being held at the Tower Hotel on Friday, February 28th, and the winner of this and the 12 other categories will be announced. Here's Karen.
The Retail Excellence category is sponsored by Permanent TSB. First of the nominees is the Fresh Food Courtyard. Established in 2017, Fresh Food Courtyard is a high-quality butcher's, delicatessen and cafe, offering customers a unique shopping experience with the highest customer service. They prepare a range of quality Irish meats, breads, homemade salads, ready-to-eat meals and cooked meats each day in their kitchen. Owner Jimmy Burrows says the farm-to-fork ethos is crucial to their success.
When I was setting up the store at the start, I felt that we were losing our traditional methods in butchering, and people were living busy lives, and I felt that the time, poor time, but yet they were struggling to prepare meals or whatever. So I felt there was an opening in the market for good quality home cooking. And I suppose that was the concept of the ready meals and having convenient food ready with good quality meats, local veg, local ingredients in it. And I suppose that's when we created the Fresh Food Courtyard as a unique kind of model, which you have your cafe, your butchers and your deli under the one roof. So we're basically a one-stop food hall shop, really. Well, our target market, I suppose, would be to the busy household, down to from the young person starting out, moving in with their partner or getting married or what have you, down to the ready meals. We'd have people living on their own that would struggle to be cooking, that we'd have nice little shepherd's pies from, little chicken hot pots, little dinners and things like that. And then we have the busy two in the house that someday they have to pick up a convenient, or they can get their Minster steaks or whatever, so we try cater for all markets.
It's traditional methods with modern skills and innovation and great customer service that see the Fresh Food Courtyard shortlisted in the Retail Excellence category.
Anyone that was in my game said to me I was cracked, in the butchering trade. And I just find that if you're passionate enough about something and you believe in it and you work hard at it, it's not easy. I felt that customer service was a huge part of what we're about, and that it was going out of the trade. You were going in, it was beep, 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 out the door, no interaction with your customer. And we tried to bring that back. And I think that was one of the big boxes we ticked when we won Shop of the Year, was how friendly our staff are. We go the extra mile. At Christmas, I had my staff carrying out the turkeys and hams to every car that anyone that was under pressure to carry it. We try to, the way I was brought up when I was 15 years of age starting out in butchering, that's what we were trained to do, and we've lost that over the years. When we started off, we started with a zero customer base, so I suppose the priority was, could we make the business work in year one, year two, to get enough of a customer base that we can survive in this game, I suppose. Now we're into year three, and I have to say I'm delighted where the store is. We're a little bit ahead of where we thought we'd be, but I suppose there's one message I would like to say, that we should be supporting local businesses and the smaller businesses, because they're the businesses that, like, I have 7 to 8 staff here employed, and there's a lot more like me in Dungarvan, and people sometimes think that them shops survive. They only survive if we have footfall, and that's the only way it works. So for year three, yes, we have plans. We're currently looking now at moving on to an online shop, setting up our internet, and we're in the middle of that at the minute. So there's exciting times ahead.
Another shortlist in the Retail Excellence category is the Spirit Beauty Spa. The beauty spa first opened its doors in November 2008 on the quay in Waterford. The company has a team of 9 therapists, and the spa manager is Tracy Murphy.
We are over the moon and honoured to be in this category for Waterford. In September 2019, we were lucky enough to win the Beauty Salon of the Year for the Irish Hair and Beauty Awards, and also we were also overall regional winner as well. Honestly, we have a great reputation for quality treatments, products and an excellent customer experience. After all, you are only as good as your team, and thankfully we have such a strong team at Spirit, some of whom have been here with us from the beginning of our journey in 2008. Most of our clients are local clients, some of whom travel from all over the southeast, and also then we have our in-house guests of Tracy's Hotel. We have a thermal suite. We're the only city centre spa in Waterford with a thermal suite, so that alone in itself is fantastic. So local people obviously have the access to those facilities here at Spirit. We are known for our great specials. We do a special of the month every month, and luckily enough our clients love those because they change all the time, and to be honest they are great value. And also we listen to our customers, and we listen to their wants and needs, and we try to keep up to date with new treatments, the latest treatments on the market. And after all, when a client asks, we listen. We were the first to stock Elemis. Elemis is an award-winning beauty product. We use it, we retail it here. We also use it in our treatments. And also we use the Juliette Armand, which is a newer product that we took on board over a year ago. Those products alone are well known, and they're well known for the results. Obviously in Waterford City alone, it's the only place you can get those products. And because we use them in our treatments, and our reputation for quality treatments with those products stand alone, and customers know that when they come to Spirit they're going to get a great service and great customer experience. We're lucky enough to have Elemis in Enfield that we're able to send our staff up when new Elemis treatments and products come onto the market. Most of the time the training is done in-house by myself and Fiona. Obviously training, we keep up to date with it and constantly maintain training.
Tracy says the staff are extremely grateful to their clients and their continued support.
Our regular customers are male and female, most of whom are local. But we do have customers who travel from all over the southeast to come to us here. A lot of them, again, booking well in advance, especially if it's a weekend. Also Kildare, we actually have clients from Kildare and Limerick and Carlow who come down on the train to see us, and they come in every month. From waxing to massage, absolutely everything. We do deep tissue massage here. We have regular male clients who come in again monthly. They come in with their wives, with their partners. A lot of them would come in and use the thermal suite. They'd go into the sauna steam room, heat up the muscle for warm muscle benefits before their massage, which is great. And we have a newly refurbished thermal suite with 6-seater hot tub. So the hot tub itself, the new addition, is great. After all, it is a luxury experience and spend. You know, it is something that we appreciate our clients to come in here on a regular basis and to open their purse and with us here and you know, spend their money on our treatments and our services and products. At the end of the day, there are other things, especially nowadays with expense in the country, that people can be spending their money on. So we really, really value our customers for that. We try to listen to them and, you know, keep things different, keep the quality that we've held for over 10 years.
Arkeen Quality Food Store is an innovative, independent food retailer that's added a unique element to Waterford's retail landscape for over half a century. They're a long-time champion of small food producers, and Arkeen have earned a national reputation for promoting the best of Ireland's artisan and locally produced food. Owned and run by Colin, Kevin and Gerald Jeffson, Arkeen is committed to its relationships with customers, suppliers, staff and the community. Here's Kevin Jeffson.
Retail and food retail in particular is constantly changing, and I suppose that's where it's up to us to keep ourselves relevant to our customers, and that's always a work in progress. It's a constant thing. We need to make sure we selling people what they want. You know, that's our big task every day, to try and keep ourselves relevant, and to do that we have to continue to change. So we try and foster a culture of innovation and keep it moving. So we've embraced the online the e-commerce part, where we sell a specialist cohort of range of Irish artisan foods, and we sell that worldwide because that's been very successful for us locally. We introduced just last year there a new healthy eating nutritious bowls, which has been our kind of healthy eating option in response to changes in customer tastes and requirements there. And we've lots of other things that we have in the pipeline that they don't all get done, but we certainly try to do them. Last year we also did an experimental cooperation with Shaw's down on the Quay, where we have some of our better, more interesting specialist products there, which brings us, I suppose, puts us in front of a new audience of people and a new customers, and that's gone very well. We've added that then to the offer that we put together up in the Meadows and Burrell Village outside of Carrick, where we have a coffee and a specialist food offer there, which has been very successful as well. So we're always trying to do new things and see where we can bring ourselves to new customers and offer something new and interesting.
And they're no stranger to the Waterford Business Awards, having won in the retail category previously and winning overall Waterford Business of the Year in 2017.
We had the big win on the initial year, which was fantastic and a great surprise to us, so we were kind of a bit stunned with that. It's a great award for us because it's our peers, it's the local people, the people who know us best, our customers, and we try every day to deliver good customer service. We don't always get it right, but it's very heartening when you get recognised by your peers. You talk about awards. Our greatest reward is when customers like what they buy and that we can sell them something they want and that they walk out of the store happy. That for us is it's a bit of a cliche, but it's a great award.
And those are your nominees in the Retail Excellence category at this year's Waterford Business Awards. The winner will be announced on Friday, February 28th at the Tower Hotel.
You are welcome back to the programme now. There was a lot of interest in my talk with Glenn Lynch of the Brill Family Resource Centre in Ballybeg and Fianna Fáil Councillor Jason Murphy about that development. It's a subject that the programme will be returning to, such as the interest in it. But just to say that the developer of that project has been in contact with the programme to say there was a meeting with Glenn a month ago when an offer was made to appoint someone from the community to sit on the management committee, and according to the developer that offer was rejected. So we will be in contact, we will be returning to this, and the comments that you've sent in and everything will be used in that, or some of them anyway, so just bear that in mind, and thanks for sending those in. But in the limited time that I have left, I'm very glad to welcome Marion Merrick, who's a former teacher, and she's back from being an independent observer on the West Bank in Palestine, and tonight in Goma in Lombard Street. She's going to be giving a talk about it. You're very welcome to the programme, Marion. Thanks very much for coming in. How did you end up in going on this trip?
Well, I became aware of it because I attended a presentation given by somebody like myself who had already been to the West Bank, and I was given a presentation tonight on what I personally witnessed when I was out there. I was there from April until July in 2019. So having heard her talk, I became interested in it, and I applied to an organisation which is run by the Quakers in the UK, and we had a recruitment and training and all the rest of it, and I was selected to go. So I was really pleased. It was kind of a fairly, very comprehensive process in terms of the recruitment, because they're very careful about who goes out there and so on. Yeah.
And you said you were there from April till July?
April to July, yeah, 3 months.
That was a long time.
Yeah. So I was with an organisation called the Ecumenical Accompaniment Programme in Palestine and Israel, a bit of a mouthful. It's EAPPI for short. And our role there is to monitor and document violations of international human rights that we observed. So that's what we did. We were present and we basically documented what we saw. We also provided what we call a protective presence to vulnerable communities. So, for example, we were asked by schools to accompany school children to school because in the morning and on their way home in the afternoon, because they have to pass through Israeli military checkpoints and close to Israeli illegal settlements in the West Bank, and they often experience harassment and sometimes violence on their way to and from school. So we were there as a protection for them, and we wore jackets which identified us. We also would provide protective presence to shepherds in the fields with their goats and sheep, because they also suffered harassment and attacks from illegal settlers living in the illegal settlements.
Are they just used to it, or can you feel the tension and the stress in the air?
Honestly, it's unfortunately become a bit normalised in the sense that it's part of everyday life, but you can never get used to that type of harassment and violence, and it particularly impacts on families and children. And people regularly have their homes, entered at night time, middle of the night, by maybe 10 or 15 soldiers who would round everybody up into one room and search the house and then leave, and they don't need a warrant or anything, they can do it at any time. So there's a high level of distress with children, and that leads to psychological problems and depression and bedwetting and all the kind of issues that you would expect living in that kind of a violent environment.
So what form will the talk take tonight if people go along? And it's at 7:30.
Yeah, it's at 7:30 in Goma. I'll talk about what I personally witnessed, and so I will show a lot of photographs of which I took myself. All of it will be what I personally observed. I'll also give some background information of the impact of the Israeli occupation, which has gone on since 1967. And for people to get a sense of it, like it's a small area, the West Bank and East Jerusalem is more than 10% smaller than County Waterford and Tipperary combined. So you're talking about a very small area. And in that area, you have to imagine, if we were in this situation, there are more than 650,000 Israeli citizens, they're called settlers, have moved and taken over the land and homes of Palestinians. So you have to imagine the scale of that in such a small area. And these settlements are illegal under international law. And they result in a lot of breaches of human rights then of Palestinians, particularly in terms of they're up to more than 700 checkpoints. Again, imagine that within military checkpoints within this very small area. So, for example, if you were in Dunmore East and you needed to come to Waterford for a medical appointment, for instance, you never know if it'll take you 20 minutes or several hours, or you mightn't get there at all, because you never know if you're going to be stopped or diverted. So every aspect of your life is controlled by the Israeli military occupation of the West Bank. Yeah.
Okay, and it's 7:30 tonight at Goma. That's in Lombard Street.
In Lombard Street, yeah.
And anyone is just welcome to
Everybody's
go and
welcome.
Listen.
It's free. There's no charge, and I would be delighted. The more people that come, the better.
And who you'll be listening to is my guest that you've been listening to there. Marion Merrick is a former teacher, and she's just back from being an independent observer on the West Bank in Palestine. Goma is the location tonight. That's in Lombard Street. 7:30 is the time if you're interested in that. Thanks very much for coming in. That is bringing the show to a close.